What is up with the black culture or lack thereof, man? I mean, you take a look at every other group, they are very cultured in their culture. Even when they're unconscious about it, they're still cultured in their culture. I mean, America itself, they call it the melting pot, but I mean, it's really just, it's mostly European. I mean, everything, I mean, you're speaking English. Most of the housing, everything is European design mostly. You have a slight influence of culture from African Americans, black people, Africans when it comes to say music or maybe, a little dress style here and there, which they barely want to give you credit for the music and the few other contributions that we have to this country. But it mostly remains European. And even with the influx of Hispanics or Latinos or whatever, you have to keep in mind, they speak Spanish. Spanish is from Spain, which is a part of Europe. So it's still European. I mean, that's why the word no is the same in Spanish as it is and in any other, most European languages. So I was just, you know, analyzing or just taking a view at, what is so multicultural about America. I mean, yeah, you gotta. As far as African Americans or Africans, yeah, we have our slight mixture in there when it comes to the music. But as far as everything else goes, I mean, you dress like Europeans. You do your hair. Some of you try to mimic and do your hair like Europeans. You dialogue like Europeans. You joke like Europeans. I'm not saying there's nothing completely wrong with that, because I mean, given our circumstance, it is what it is, and we've developed our own little intricacies within that. However, the majority they call this a melting pot, but it doesn't really seem like that for Africans, African Americans, black people. Again, with Hispanics, when they come over, they bring their particular culture from South America over here, and they're very, adamant about it. There's tacos, burritos, sombreros, whatever type of Spanish, Latin music they bring over there. But even that is still somewhat European. So I'm sitting here. I'm making. I'm just viewing what everyone calls multicultural, and I'm trying to see what is so multicultural and how. Of course, I always ask the question: how are we benefiting from it? Which we are not. The only thing that we should have been doing is, taking and learning and then bringing it back to your people. But people thought that racism was over for some reason. But I think if they've been keeping up with recent politics, they should be noticing that it is clearly not over and not far from being over. In fact, I'll say in the next at least 200 plus years, it's not going to be over. There's always going to be something. I mean, if you really listen, eventually this country is going to be seriously overtaken by Hispanics. Now, they're going to do things in their best interest. I mean, anybody would. I don't, hate on that. However, they have their country right next to them, so they can integrate and have interracial dating and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't affect their overall culture or anything like that. Uh, White people, Europeans, whatever, even if they get second classed or whatever by Hispanic people, they still have Europe. They still have all those European nations to go back to reinforce their culture or whatever. However, us black people, Africans, when this happens in this country, I'm just going to keep it in this country because white people still have Canada as well. We have no major influx of people coming into this country. We are very stagnant when it comes to population growth. So when we integrate and when we intermingle and all this kind of stuff, that basically subtracts numbers from the little culture that we have left. Our culture is starting to turn to look more like European or Hispanic culture. It, I mean, it used to be there used to be a clear, distinction. Like, yeah, they have European influences, but this is more African. Like, you look at jazz music or blues, hip hop. It's clearly African rooted. So in our culture, the way we interact with each other and whatnot, we're clearly African rooted. However, now when I notice when you talk to people when they talk about learning other languages or anything like that, they always talk, oh, yeah, this will be black people. I want to go to France. I like to learn French, and I want to learn Spanish and all this kind of stuff. But you never hear them talk about how they want to learn, Zulu or the language in Benin or Zimbabwe or anything like that. They never talk about wanting to learn anything like that. And that is how, to me, that's just another aspect of cultural genocide, because you are not reinforcing any of your culture at all. None of your culture from Africa and none of your cultural heritage from here. You're not reinforcing it. You're reinforcing everyone else's culture. And everyone else doesn't. I'm telling you, no one else gives a damn about your culture. Yeah, they like to dance and hip hop and whatnot, but you start talking to them, go date someone that's not of your race, and what the first thing that they'll be trying to tell you is how to speak their language. You date a Hispanic person, oh, you need to learn Spanish, or you date somebody from France, oh, you need to learn this and that, blah blah blah. But how many of those people, if this was really a multicultural place, wouldn't these people be learning about Africa and African languages? Wouldn't they be asking you about, hey, what about your African language, or what about your African culture and all that kind of stuff? No, it's usually one-sided. It's usually, especially in this country, European or Hispanic, or if you did an Asian person, you're gonna go out your way to learn their culture. Their family and that person you're dating is not really gonna go that far out their way to learn about your culture, unless it's music. Oh, you guys make nice music, but what about your culture that distinguishes you from everyone else? That should be very apparent in your community, your walk of life, or anything like just the small things. Just listen to people talk. You'll hear cultural slips come out of their mouth. You won't even realize it. And this is why, I mean, with multiculturalism and all this kind of stuff, it's really killing our culture as black people, especially here in this country. So I'm wondering, in the next 20 to 30 years, what's going to be of the last remnants of our culture? I mean, people keep joking around, thinking that people are lying when we say this, but we are at the gates of cultural genocide, and it goes economically as well as physically. It just goes straight down to straight up extermination. You will cease to be like the Native Americans. So I mean, people need to really take a look and take this stuff seriously. It's actually a very big deal, because yeah, you're proud to be black and you like to be black, you like your afro and all this kind of stuff. But 20 years down the line, you have kids, and you're going to start noticing your kids are going to be speaking Spanish. Your kids are going to be speaking English. None of them are going to know anything about their African cultural roots. Maybe they're not going to want to know. It's stuff like that that worries me. So it's just a question I throw out there. What's going to happen to, in America, the black African American culture? Where will we be? Will it still exist 20, 30 years from now? Will black people really be about black people? Or are we just slowly dying out? Are we slowly watching the beginning of us phasing out? Because Hispanics are not going to phase out. They're going to be here because their country is right there. White people, they still have Canada to fall back to, and worst comes worst, they have Europe. A whole bunch of black people ain't just going to migrate back to Africa. Not yet, at least. But it's just a question I pose out to all my black people out there.